Yes, here he is. Matt Halfhill.
Finally.
Yes, finally.
Finally.
Oh man, so excited, Matt.
Oh, thank you, man.
Honestly,
thank
man,
you.
I've been a big fan of Nice Kicks and everything you guys have done for
Appreciate
all the
it.
years, and it's like just goes back to how amazing it is. You know, like I was telling you before, like just what Kicking It with Sneaker Steve is, and thank you for being on the show. It's really just about me documenting my life in sneakers, my passion, my journey. 20 plus years I've been doing this in the industry, and just all the incredible people I've met. You're definitely one of them, and as an inspiration, and as also as an entrepreneur. But really it started as you as a sneakerhead and a sneaker lover, and the passion for that. So when Ivan told me that you were interested to be on the show, and I just thought it was like a huge honor. So really it's like a big honor. I know we just saw each other at Agenda and ran into each other. Yeah.
Trade show season.
Yeah, trade show season. So for me to like now actually sit down and get to know you,
For sure.
I think it's great.
No, thank you. I mean, one of my good friends, rest in peace, Gary Warnett, said to me, and the first time we ever talked was that, you know, this product is amazing. You know, shoes are awesome, the stories are amazing, but the people are cooler than the products, and the people make this industry what it is, not the products that we go after. And you know, I definitely 100% agree with that. You know, it wouldn't be the same enthusiasm every day going to work if it wasn't for the people in the business, like yourself, and you know, all the people we cross paths with.
Thank you, amazing. So Matt, when I meet people in general, what I've known is that what I always ask them is just where they're from. You know, like just because I believe that a lot of people meet, and sometimes it's just like a very like a networking thing.
Right.
But until you really understand like where people are from, what's their background, you actually get to know the person. You know, so where are you from?
So I was originally born in Fresno, California, and that's where I lived for the first 15 years of my life. And then I started hitting the road. And so in my actual 4 years of high school, I did in 3 different countries. My family moved from Fresno, California to Grenada in the West Indies, and then after that to Canada in Victoria, BC. Which is where, you know, I started my first job working in footwear up there. So shouts to Canada.
But even
for
when
that.
you were in the Caribbean, I thought that was really cool because I listened to one of your Shopify Masters podcasts.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And I thought that was just so cool. The fact that like the first time you got to an island and some guy with an accent goes, "Hey man, like nice kicks."
Yes, nice kicks.
That's how you got the name.
Yeah. So
that is incredible.
I heard nice kicks like thrown around a little bit in high school in the U.S. Then I heard it down there, and like when I was thinking about like a name for a website about sneakers, like my brother and I were like trying to think of names that, you know, weren't taken, and like nice was a adjective that was used so much in Grenada, and you'd hold out the I, and you know, like nice was like, you know, it's the way that people would say it like a lot. And so yeah, nice kicks was I owe a lot to Grenada for that. And we actually,
I thought that was hilarious when I heard that. Because in my mind, I was like in this weird accent, like a weird,
yeah.
You know, I love their accent, but I butcher it too. You know,
of course. Yeah. Give me back to Grenada and a couple rounds, and I'll have it back. But yeah, I butchered it probably a few minutes ago. But no, I mean, Grenada had a lot to do with me and sneakers. You know, I got my first pair of Air Jordans right before my family moved to the Caribbean, and it was like, you know, the last shots that were on clearance. And Just for Feet was rumored to go into bankruptcy, so my mom was like, "Yo, get that credit cash now, get some shoes."
Yeah.
So I did that, and I actually was going around to the different schools with my family to figure out which school I would go to, and they had uniforms there, which I wasn't used to in Fresno. And my father and I went to one school that actually was a school that I believe it was Malcolm X had went to for a short period of time, called Presentation Boys School, or Boys College rather. And the schoolmaster, my dad asked about the shoes, and the schoolmaster said, "Oh, well, those shoes are fine. We'll just paint over the logos. We'll paint over the yellow and the red on the shoes." And then I'm like, just thinking to myself, I'm like, I can't let this happen. I just got these Jordans. These are my first Air Jordans. You can't paint over. You can't do this. Yeah. So like I start like just campaigning harder than ever to my parents. Like, no, you should really send me to this school instead. This one would be much better, where they aren't going to paint on my Jordans that I just got. Yeah.
Just to put that in perspective, it's like shoes over education.
Yeah, of course.
Like of course. At that point, it's like who cares?
Who cares? Who
protect
cares?
the Jordans.
No, protect the Jordans at all costs. And there were girls at that school. That one was all boys, and it's a 15-year-old wasn't rolling.
Yeah.
But and then I moved to Canada, and not long after I was working at a shoe store there, and I was already really into selling shoes, working at a shoe store, commission sales. The West Indies Air Force Ones came out, and I loved that so much because it was like speaking to my heart, like that the West Indies was represented, and actually on the original pattern they had all the different islands of the West Indies. But because of the pattern, they had an odd number.
Is it the white with the yellow, or the white with the green?
The green was the first one. Yeah,
the white with the green.
So the white with the green in 02, and they had to repeat one country twice, and it was Grenada. So for me, I was just like, yo, I have to have these even more so now that not only are they West Indies, yes, twice as many Grenadas than any other country. I'm like, yes, gotta get. So I have owned every West Indies they've ever released because of that.
It's amazing. One of our friends that we introduced John to is Mike Parker, who was the head at Nike at that time that was doing all the limited editions. So he did, of course, like the Puerto Rican Air Force.
Yes.
He did. He grew up with Babito in New York, and I knew him from back then. He was actually one of my mentors when I was selling at my store, Sprint 2 in Queens.
Right.
So got to meet him there through Nike while he would come in and just get research on the boroughs coming to Queens. So it was amazing to, even back then, for me to understand that there was a guy who came up with a concept for a Puerto Rican Air Force or a West Indian Air Force, and to make that connection, there was somebody that was a guy that was doing that was incredible.
Right. Yeah,
it's amazing. I love how the stories touch people depending on from what perspective, from you in Canada and me in Queens, and
right. And it's still same shoe, but seen different ways. And that's what I think makes the community and the culture so unique from so many other things, is that they tie us together, and there are so many different stories that are told. There's so much to a shoe than just the leather and rubber that constructs it. Or in today's world, TPU and knit. But there's so much more than the actual product itself. There was a designer who had an idea, and he had an inspiration from something. There was a manufacturing process that was engineered for this line of shoes. Or there's just endless stories. If you start with one, you can throw one shoe on the table and talk for hours and see where it goes in different ways because of that.
Yeah, I feel that that's something that, at least for me in my life, I believe that over the next 10 years, I really want to start telling more of that story. I remember being at a factory meeting overseas, and they said, Steve, do you know how many people have touched this shoe? Or do you know how many components go into this shoe? And the number was really high, in the hundreds. And I was just like, I just remember, I was like, wow, I wish people knew that. I mean, I wish when you get this finished product in the store that you knew that all of these people and their lives and components and companies and outsoles and fabric and laces and lining and insole suppliers, all of these people came and everything had to come together for you to be able to build this shoe.
Yep.
And it comes in this finished package, and people don't know that. And I believe that there's a big opportunity in telling that story.
Yep.
So that people can, when they see a sneaker and they see a shoe, how special it is, and really understand the value or what it took to make.
Yeah.
So you're in Canada, you're at the store.
Yep.
Yeah,
Athletes
okay.
World.
West Indies Air Force.
Yep.
How old are you?
I just turned 33.
No, back then.
Oh, back then I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was 16 years old. And I didn't even actually want the job at the shoe store. I wanted to work somewhere else, but I needed certification, and I needed $200 for that the class for the certification to get the job there.
Interesting.
And I asked my dad for the $200, and he's like, "It sounds like you need to go get a job." So I'm like, "I'm trying to get a job, Dad." And I'm like, I look back at it, and I'm like, how lucky were my parents? I was the kid who wanted a job for no reason other than to just have a job.
Yeah.
And I, wanted. And I started working there. I was like, my plan was, okay, just get your $200. You can, maybe work part-time, get out, whatever. And I just was addicted from day one.
What were you trying to get certified for?
Just work at a gym near my school. It was just something so silly. And
but I remember gym memberships and people that worked at gym. There was a hot thing.
It was.
I remember everybody wanted to work at a gym or be the sales guy at a gym. There was something that happened in the early 2000s where that was a thing.
It was a thing.
At least in New York, I know it was a thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't want to work there weren't a lot of jobs where the area of town that I lived in Canada, and it was like, you either worked at the grocery store with everybody else. And I'm like, I don't want to work at the grocery store.
That's what I did. I was the cashier at the supermarket.
Two of my friends worked in the dairy department, like just stocking produce, or one stocked produce, the other one stocked dairy. I'm like, nah, I really don't want to do this for 8 hours at a time. Like, no interest at all. So I thought, well, I can talk to people, and that would be much more fun. And so it was by far the coolest store in town at the time.
What was it called?
It's called Athletes World. It was owned by the Batacorp, which is a huge, history in shoes, but unfortunately that company is no longer. In Canada, I should say, it's still a huge retailer in Italy.
Was it like a Foot Locker?
It was like a Foot Locker. It was, mall chain. We actually outsold Foot Locker in our area at that time. Like it was like the big, Canadian retailer for quite a long time of shoes. And it, also had clothes. Like they had, I thought it was uber cool because they were the only store in town that had Echo and Fat Farm and
the big
Rockaware. Like, dude, come on.
That's it. Yeah.
So
on
they
the
had,
plug.
On the plug. Yeah. So, that's what I started, and it was just so much fun working there every day. And my first manager, Joe Scalzo, he told me, like, you can make whatever you put your mind to. Like, you can do whatever you want to do, and with this, and I kind of took that.
Now, was that him because he was like an inspirational person, or did he see something special? Do you believe he saw something special in you that he plugged?
I don't know why he
you?
Put that into me. Like, there were a couple conversations we had while I was working there. One of them was, it was like maybe a couple weeks before he was let go. He had told me promised me that in 10 or 15 years, you're going to look me up, call me, and tell me what you're doing. And I just reconnected with him this summer. I tried to track this guy down forever.
Wow.
And I finally, he joined Facebook. And he had 2 friends on there. I'm like, what the? So he just like, I honestly searched like for his name like probably every 2 months or so.
Just to thank him?
I wanted to like live up to my promise, which is I would tell him what I'm doing.
15 years,
Yeah, 15 years, and it worked out to just I was actually 16 when I saw I was 1 year late.
Was he blown away? Was he like, oh my God, like for real?
Like, yeah, he heard the voice. He's like, I immediately knew it was you when you left a voicemail on my on my answering machine. And then he's like, I Googled your name, and he's like, I was absolutely floored.
Wow.
And so like for me, like that was like, it was such a great thing for me, to me personally, because like I looked up to him so much, and he was unfortunately let go while I found out like actually on the day of my graduation, and I never got to say goodbye or thank him for all that he had put into me and pushed me and whatnot. And so finally, 16 years later, I was able to find him and thank him.
Such a dope story, man.
Yeah. Oh man.
So then, Matt. So did you go to college?
I did. I went to. Yeah. I stayed home. I went to University of Victoria in Victoria, BC. I had thought about going. There were other schools I'd looked at going to, but I stayed there. I didn't really like it was really not my thing, and I always thought I would be. Like I finished like with. I think I had a 95% average when I graduated. Like I was the MC at my school, and like was trying to campaign for valedictorian, but I'd only been there for like a year. So they're like, dude, you can't be the valedictorian. You've only been here a year.
Yeah.
And for me, like school was very important to me, but it wasn't until I got to college that I really realized like, you got to push yourself more than than necessarily school would.
Yeah.
And the route I was going with tech and things like that, and like web stuff, I just wasn't as into what I was getting in the school setting. And oh, by the way, both my parents are professors, so you can imagine how that conversation went when I told them I'm not really feeling this college thing.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
Little fun fact: I was valedictorian in my school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very, very proud of that. It was like
nice.
something huge.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was elected to do a speech in Madison Square Garden in front of 5,000 people.
Wow.
And just like, rock the crowd, a lot of love, a lot of inspiration.
Yeah.
I look back at that. Sometimes I'll play it's actually on a CD.
Oh, it's on a CD.
Like
Mine's
DVD?
on a VHS. So you're one up on me.
Yes, and because they had a copy of it. It was actually a VHS that they put on a DVD.
Oh, okay.
And but it really inspires me to like just hear myself at that young age. And some of the dreams and aspirations that I had, but it's good to know that. But I could imagine like, you know, both your parents being academics or like in academia, and then you saying, I don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
That pressure must have been crazy.
I mean, I did a year and a half, maybe, or 2 years. I'd switched my major after 1 year, and it just was not. And then my dad said, and he was supportive. He's like, look, it will always be here for you.
So you were how old? You were like, what, 20?
19.
19.
19, I left school.
And you already were interested in tech? Like
I was,
you were just...
oh yeah, I was already doing web stuff. I had started, like, when I moved to Canada, one of the first friends I made, Sean Hamill, working for Sean Co., he had a website called all64.com that was like the biggest cheat code website for N64 games.
Okay.
And so that was where I'd been doing HTML like as a kid before, but he taught me view source there, and he's like, look, all this web stuff you can figure out. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to read a ton of books. He's like, just get into the code. You'll get familiar with it.
Got it.
And so he taught me view source, and I was constantly viewing the source of all these different websites I loved to look at, trying to figure out the nuts and bolts on how these things worked.
Sick.
And this was back when websites were primarily static HTML. You didn't have a lot of dynamic PHP or Flash or anything like that. So pretty much what you saw there. This is 2001.
Okay.
And so that's where I got familiar with HTML and comfortable with it. And then I, built some projects in high school. One of them was like a website that was about, like, it was like just a class project about Mercedes-Benz aftermarket parts. Okay. It was like AMG rims, Lorenzer wheels, and all that kind of shit.
Brabus and
yeah. And I optimized in Yahoo #1 for Lorenzer rims and other terms related to that. And I remember, like, I
is
really
that like,
did by accident.
Is that like early SEO?
So I didn't even know that term yet. Okay. I just called it ranking high in Yahoo. I didn't know that was like an actual thing people did as like a business. And I actually called up Lorenzer. I'm like, hey, could I buy wheels to then sell on a website? Like, I have, my website is
traffic.
It's actually in front of yours.
Wow.
And they're like, no, you have to have a store. I'm like, but I'm actually have more people coming here than, and they're like, well, then please put a link on our website to our website. I'm like, nah, bro, not rolling, not doing that, man. Like, so, but that was like the first time I'd really, I don't know, had, I guess, marginal success with something on the internet.
And you already that early knew that there was that power of the web.
I saw that the web was going to be this thing that people used for entertainment. And the reason entertainment and information, two things. I saw that the best information I could get was from the web. That came before I even moved to Grenada, because I wanted to know where the fuck I was moving, and I couldn't find anything in my library.
Got it.
There were
So you went online?
I had to go online.
Yeah.
So I went to, my library at my high school, and I found that they had only 2 National Geographics that ever had articles about Grenada. One of them was during the invasion. One of them was like a couple years after, as a kind of like showing the travel and the scenery and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, wait. And then I look at a couple encyclopedias that mention primarily Grenada invasion. I can't find any history. I can't find anything. So I had to go to the web to search, where am I moving to? Like,
and it's a basic web. It's not the web that we have now.
No, it's not And honestly, like back then, it was a lot of things were by directories. You didn't even have great search functionality then. When you searched in Yahoo, it was primarily searching within its own directory that was still manually and added with humans and all that kind of stuff.
It's like it's so interesting to me, because the experience that we had growing up before the internet, and then even beginnings of internet, are so different to probably most of the people that are going to be listening to this show. So
for me, I read this great article that said, like, if you were born between 83 and 86, or 86 or 87, it was like 83, it was the 3 or 4 year period. He's like, you are the luckiest people you could be, because they said that you were born at the luckiest time. You were old enough to have been comfortable with a computer from an early age. I read that quote. It's like a whole thing. I read that quote. You were old enough to be comfortable with a computer. You probably had a computer in your house as a kid or right before you became a teenager, but you didn't necessarily have the internet then. When you had the internet, it was primarily for information consumption. Yeah. You didn't have social media until after you left high school and probably even college. Yeah. And it's like, for me, I'm like, and then right soon after we finished college or high school, like then we get the smartphone and all the social
But
media. But it's like for
hold
me,
up on that, because
yeah.
you are so right. Because even me, like this is the longest we've been together,
Yeah.
you know, hanging out. I can already tell the feeling that you have about tangible products. We're just talking about AI, right?
Yeah.
Your feeling towards, I want the shoe in front of me. I don't need a computerized version because I can do it. I want to see the shoe. So I could see the fact that you're very smart, very technical savvy because you grew up with it, but you're still here in that age group that appreciates real,
We
tangible,
appreciate real.
without the internet, without basically being an online or virtual, living my whole life.
Absolutely.
You've lived so much of your life here. You're so right. Like your age group, you have that.
We lived on both sides of it. We got to sit on the wall and see both sides from there.
Yeah.
And the thing that
it's so cool. And actually, a lot of entrepreneurs that are like yourself, that are very successful, that have multi-million-dollar companies, are within your age bracket because they've had both.
Yeah, we had both. And I think
and both in a specific time frame of your life.
Of your life.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad I didn't get social until I was mature enough to handle it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't have.
That's deep.
No, I'm serious.
That's so deep.
I'm serious.
Wow.
Like I was a good kid, but
Like
I don't.
there should be
I'm
an
happy
age limit of
15-year-old.
when you can get social.
Oh my gosh, yeah, with my
Wow.
kids for sure. I mean, it's a very serious thing, and we just like I think about so many different things. Like I grew up having vinyl records, some 8 tracks, even some like from garage sales, cassette tapes. I didn't get my first CD player till I was like in the 5th or 6th
Wow.
grade. And then I got the DVD player probably like when I moved to Canada is when I got my first DVD player. Like, you know, and now it's like everything in cloud. Like I've gotten to see so many different forms of even, you know, medium that content is delivered on. But going back to this. So I was talking about the internet and how for the information.
Yeah.
I saw the entertainment when I was working extra time in my grade 11 class called Infotech 11. Shout out to Miss Davis. And I was
Miss Davis.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was working extra time, and there were a bunch of 9th graders that came in for their class.
Nice.
And what I saw was that they were using the web as a form of entertainment. I saw them using JavaScript games. I saw them using
So
it
you were an 11th grader and you saw the 9th graders.
and I saw the 9th graders who were 2 years younger than me, and I see how they're using.
They were
the
having fun. They were
internet.
playing with it.
They're having fun with
Okay.
it. They're watching funny videos. Like, you know, this was back in the days when there's no YouTube, there's no streaming, so you had to click, you know, like watch video and then wait like a couple minutes for it to load. Then you'd get like a little funny clip or whatever. And so for me, I saw, okay, now there's entertainment value on this platform. I saw that I was able to research information. Then 9/11 happened, and I realized now this is where I get my news from. For me, when we were in
Wow.
Canada, like, yeah, there was some television. There was a lot of television coverage. I mean, you yourself know, being in New York.
I was
at
there.
that-
I
yeah.
was there during the 9/11 attacks.
But in Canada, like, you know, we got as much as we could, but I always felt like I needed to find more, you know, and you always saw the same videos were playing, and I would go to the internet because I'm trying to look for more. I'm trying to look for more. And that's when I first realized, like, oh my gosh, there are like news sites here that are really keeping up to date news on the web.
Wow.
So that was when then I saw the web was for a great delivery service for news. I think back to like when I was in 5th grade, I told my dad, you know, one day you're not going to read a newspaper in the morning. And his attitude was like, what are you talking about? People have been reading newspapers in the morning forever.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if you go back to time, even like the colonial days, we had forms of like print. Ever since the print press, we've had newspapers. I'm like, no, Dad, we're going to get it on a computer one day. He's like, oh, come on. You can never replace holding it in your hand.
It's like kids.
Yeah,
these kids these days.
And
yeah.
I mean, my dad was 45 when I was born. He was born in 1938. So I think of what he's seen in his lifetime.
Wow.
But it's like, you know, I remember, you know, several times back, like talking to people about, you know, like in the future, this is what it will be. And I remember being like written off as a weirdo for thinking like like things will be digital on a lot of fronts.
Yeah, like when you're sitting in the Millennium Falcon chairs.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like the Conan O'Brien, what was it, in the year 2000 skit. But yeah, so
So all right, so then at that time, You get it. You see the internet. It's something very powerful. You're a deep thinker. What happens next? How does, what is that first sneaker? And then, you just told me a huge fact that Nice Kicks was the first sneaker blog.
It's the oldest sneaker blog before we had message boards
ever.
Yeah, I started.
That is incredible.
I started.
One, congratulations and thank you.
No,
you've started a revolution.
I'm just a dude who likes shoes and built a website. That's it.
You're very modest. Yeah.
Whatever. It's just me. Like, it's nothing special. But in 2005, at the end of 2005, like it was November or December, I started playing. I wanted to get familiar with WordPress.
Okay.
I don't know why I chose WordPress as what would be the platform I would use. Thankfully, the rest of the web did too. But I started playing. I actually looked at a couple other content management systems at that time because I felt like I was reading blogs. Okay. I was reading blogs like Technorati, Gizmodo, a couple TechCrunch, I think even. Not Technorati, TechCrunch. And I saw this format was amazing because it was like medium length content. It was easy to digest. You'd go to the website, you'd hit refresh, and sometimes there'd be a new article up top, and then the ones that were before went down below it. And I figured out like, they're using dynamic coding. They're, it's done by PHP, not static HTML. So you're not like overwriting each page. You go to like next page, next page, next page. It's all managed for you, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, this is a great way to consume content. I was a big avid reader of Nike Talk, ISS forums. Yeah. And the thing was that I felt was the message boards were great in that everybody could come and talk and hang out about everything, but I felt they were a terrible medium for content consumption. They were a terrible medium because a lot of times the best content threads really were somebody asked a question like, hey, what shoes did Bo Jackson wear what were the biggest Bo Jacksons? It might be on the first page, it might be on the second page before an OG comes in and drops the serious knowledge. Yeah. And it was very hard to follow discussions, your replies, thread, like everything was just, you'd constantly be flipping pages. And at that time, flipping pages took time.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, there needs to be a better format for content delivery about sneakers. So I started this. I actually still have the domain name. It's called sneakerhype.com. Okay. I was reading Hypebeast. Shout out to Kevin Ma, who I work with today, and I found out later on that we lived only 2 miles from each other in Vancouver at one time.
What?
Yeah. So it's really funny.
I know Kevin from Hong Kong.
Yes.
When I lived in China.
Yeah.
And we did one of the first trade shows called the For Show Show.
Yes. I know For Show show.
We did it with Lamar and Dolly.
Yep.
And I remember telling Kevin, I'm like, yo, what you need to do is monetize this. I was like, at that time I was the global director of DC. Yep. And it was a Fat O, like the big guys from Phenomenon and Swagger. The first time in the Japanese brands here in the States. And I told Kevin, I remember this because he was like, I was like, yo, Kevin, bro, you're bringing so much traffic to these sites. You need to monetize it. You need to start selling some of these brands, have a store. Like, you're doing so much. I really want you to be successful and benefit from it. And I remember him being like, "No, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't think about it. I don't see it. But I'm so glad that now.
Oh, he's monetizing now. Yeah. He's monetizing. He's not the freaking Hong Kong Stock Exchange. He's monetized, all right.
Yeah, like beyond.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Kevin's got it down right.
Yeah. So like when I see that, I just these are these stories in sneaker culture. These conversations as just. Honestly, we were just young kids.
We were. I mean,
dreaming and being and doing, and then. Now to see us so successful later and years later, to me it's inspiring.
I love that there are so many of the people we were working with in the beginning who are still here today working with us. And there's a lot of them here. I mean, I remember my first trade show I went to. I'm glad you brought up the For Show show.
The For Show show. Yeah. You were there?
I saw it online.
Okay.
I saw the flyers online. I thought it was the coolest name for a trade show.
Oh my God! Because the location was the worst ever.
Oh yeah.
It was like the jankiest side behind. Like the bad hotels in Vegas.
I stayed at that for my first Magic.
It was like behind the bad hotels.
Oh man.
And it was like this weird motel. It was the craziest lobby of a motel, but then just the coolest curated brands ever.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Amazing. Yeah, so I went to my first Magic in February of 2007, and I went out there with, Ray Odom group out of Houston. They had the store Kicks, and I went out there and my eyes were just like, wow. And I'm really,
And did you already have the blog?
Yeah,
up?
I had the blog. So, sorry. So I jumped a couple years there. 2005, I started coding, and I bought that domain name sneakerhype.com.
Okay.
It's kind of like, I'm going to do something with sneakers, and I'm like giving a nod to Kevin at Hypebeast, like, you got something good here.
And I like that you just told me that you were actually going to call it Kickin' It.
Oh, so the video,
That's crazy.
yes, that was in 2007. I did a video thing called Kickin' It, which later was kind of almost a format for what Sneak Peek became. But it was I literally went down to Houston, and just had videotaped myself talking to collectors, hanging out in their sneaker collections. One of them was in a garage, which is like, if anybody knows Houston weather, like that's not a good place for shoes unless they're in Ziploc bags.
I can imagine.
But then there were a couple people. One of them was a manager for Ray Odom. The other one was Brian, aka Kadoma, who started H-Town Sneaker Summit. He was like one of my other subjects. Other one was Clint, who was Bronze, who was another guy involved. And then Joe from Premium Goods, and it's like, and Ryan from Premium Goods as well. But it's kind of cool.
Clint was a part of that during that time. Clint was a salesman, right?
Yeah.
Clint was actually the first Android Home salesman ever.
Wow, that's crazy.
He had a showroom in the Midwest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That is crazy.
But yeah,
so you go to 07, you go to Magic, you have the site.
Yeah. So I had the site.
And are people looking at you like you're crazy, like you're?
So people didn't know, like, I come out there with a camera because I'd gotten my first like SLR, like whatever, in 06.
Yeah.
The Nikon D80, and I remember like people were like, "Oh, what? He's got a camera. Like, what was he doing?" And then like people were they knew about the internet. They didn't really understand what blogs were. They kind of thought we were like a message board that had a comment section and content. Like they just didn't fully understand, except for two guys at Reebok. One of them, Paul Beklowski,
Paul,
who's still in the business all these years later, great friend,
Love Paul.
And Brian Kelly from Reebok.
Okay.
Those two had the foresight to understand what I was doing was beneficial to them in their business. And for them, just as salesmen, they're like, no equity holders in Reebok, but they're like, him talking about shoes, and they would show me the ones that are coming up this season, and then they're like, maybe sit on these for a little bit, or maybe tease, don't say where you got it from, like that kind of thing. And they're like, we see the benefit that this will do. People are reading these sites. I read these sites. I read Nice Kicks, like what Paul said.
So, but back then, was your goal already, like, did you see this as a business? Did you see like,
I did.
I'm gonna have a massive business, or is it just?
No. I mean, I was looking to pay my rent and be able to live. I mean, I was cash flow positive from my first month, mainly because I kept my costs like nothing.
Okay.
I kept them almost. It was just myself and whatever my rent and utilities would be. Like that was it. I built it from home. I built the first website. Literally every line of code was me.
Wow.
And so and all the camera work was me. I started out with like just a cheap like $200 point and shoot at that time. I did everything from nothing. I had no investors. I had no partners. I had, nobody with experience in the business. I had to learn every little bit of that thing. Like I didn't understand when I started, like there are departments called PR and communications and advertising. Like I was all like completely new to that. And I learned a lot of that probably. Do
you think that was a benefit to you, like not knowing and just doing, or did you think that?
I think it was because I had my mind focused on one thing every single day, and that was getting the best content up there and and keeping the site tight, keeping it the best that it could be.
And at that time, no one else had sneakers. There was no other sneaker blogs.
Not long after they had. Let's see. It was so I started like right at the end of 05, and I think it was when I started building. And I launched like March or April of 06. There was Sneaker Files, who was at that time called kick-fiend.com, and then there was Kicks in the City, who's Maze, who's now at Soul Collector.
Yep.
And other sites that talked about sneakers. You had Freshness Mag.
Yep.
But there was no sneaker news. That didn't come till end of 07 or 08. And then Kicks on Fire didn't start till way later in 06, like December of 06 or something like that. So like, you know, it was a very limited number of sites.
Yeah.
Soul Redemption, that was another one.
Got it.
That was another one that were in the blog format that used, you know, content management system.
Because back then I was really close with Yuming.
Yeah.
You know, because I was in New York and he was there, and he was developing sites for Jordan.
Yes, he was at RGA.
Web developer, and then he started Freshness, and he covered some of the first product that we launched at DC Shoes.
Yes.
So like I just had a big like just catch up call with him, just kind of like you, like when you talking about Kevin, like just reminiscing, me like, yo, remember when we met?
Man.
To where we are now?
Dude, I remember.
It's incredible.
Were you on the...
Like we're sitting here talking about sneakers on set, like in a beautiful high production set in Silicon Beach, like at Sneaker Inc. Studios.
Dude, my
like,
first Kickin' It, you know what my lighting was?
This is what Kickin' It with Sneaker Steve is like now.
Yeah, you know what my Kickin' It was?
What?
I went to Home Depot and bought shop lights and then hung a sheet in front of it to try to diffuse the light. That was my Kickin' It.
Okay.
A little budget. I actually found those shop lights in my storage unit. I'm just about to move. And I found those shop lights, and I'm like, do I keep these? Do I donate these? Do I keep these? Do I donate these? I'm like, I got way too much junk. I'm just gonna donate them. But I was like, I saw those just like 2 days ago.
So I'm excited, bro. Like tell me now, like how does this thing escalate to like where you're at now, man? Like how does that go?
I learned about the different divisions of how these brands worked in terms of marketing, communications, PR, all that kind of stuff when we were the first member of the Complex Media Network. I got a call from, so what happened, I guess this is where things kind of lead up to this. I get a call in 2006 from a reporter, Sarah Skidmore at the Associated Press, who wants to write an article about shoes. And she would, I can't remember what the topic was about. I think it was something that had to do with like limited shoes, and I was like kind of telling her we talked for over an hour just about the culture of people who are sneakerheads. And she calls me maybe 2 weeks later. She's like, hey, I'm sending a photographer to where your office is. Would you be cool to take a photo? I'm like, what is this for? And she's like, I kind of shifted directions about the article. I want to talk about you. And so it was this wild thing, like, you know, this article that goes out in like first week of January in 2007, and it's like, you know, I think the title of the article was like "Sneakerheads are serious about their kicks," and like the opening line of the article is Matt Halfhill is a sneakerhead, and then she just goes into all this stuff about like what this culture is like all about and stuff, and from that, you know, there wasn't a lot of mainstream media press about sneakers at all. Oh, not at all. Yeah. And we got called by, among others, the Jay Leno show for like coming on to.
No way.
Yes. So we were on Tonight Show's lineup for guys with odd collections, and I was on cue to be on there.
I was thinking about it. I was like, it's like this weird like. There's these guys who collect sneakers,
and
they're
it's like,
odd.
They're odd, and then like people from New York are like, nah, dude, that's just like my homie down the street. Like, what are you talking about? That's nothing weird. So I was like lined up to be on
like
Jay Leno show.
Bob. Yeah.
So, but
this is Matt Halfhill coming on, and he's get.
But so the thing that was so wild is like I was lined up to be on the show.
That's crazy.
And I literally get bumped at the last minute for being on the show by a kid who collects vacuum cleaners. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm gonna surrender this crown of being an oddball, I'll give it to the kid who collects vacuum cleaners.
Oh my God.
I mean, here is your future 28-year-old virgin right here on TV. I mean, collecting vacuum cleaners. I'm like, I was so pissed. God. And you know the thing that they gave me? You know what the Tonight Show sent me? As like a we're sorry gift, but we've been talking with you and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
They sent me a fucking sweatshirt in the mail. Like, and I'm like, I just wish it was like, you know, I was supposed to go on the Tonight Show and all I got was this lousy sweatshirt. Like, it was just.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so, but the great thing that also came from that article is I get a call, Complex reaches out, Peter Rubin writing a piece for Complex. And he, you know, interviews me. I, you know, contribute a bunch. It goes into print. but I think it was like the March or April issue of '07 for Complex. And when it gets printed, I like call him. I'm like, hey, dude, thank you so much. Could you put me in touch with whoever runs the blog there? Like, could you connect me with anybody there? And he's like, oh yeah. There's this young kid named Joe LaPuma. I'll put you on an email. And so that's when I get introduced to Joe LaPuma.
Yeah.
And Joe and I became like great friends right off the bat. I mean, I remember flying up to New York. Only maybe a month or two later, because Joe calls me and he's like, yeah, man, he's like, these guys in the ad sales side, he's like, this one guy, Moksha, this crazy, he's like the best salesman ever. He's a legend out here. Yeah. He's like, they've got Moksha and Rich have this crazy idea about building like some kind of network or something. They want you to come up. Would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I fly up to New York and go meet with them and hear the pitch about what would be the Complex Media Network. And we were the first site that was in the group. And so that was there in '07.
That's incredible.
And I think it was that same trip. Yeah, it was such a wild
That's amazing,
time.
Man. Because I would go into the Complex offices. I'm really good friends with Rich.
On 23rd?
Yeah. I'm really good friends with Rich and Moksha and, of course, Joe. And seeing them and they're, just evolving from literally I was there from Complex episode, like the first issue. Mm-hmm. So it's issue number 1 of
with Bono and Nas on the cover.
It's funny because our shirt, I don't know if you follow, but I had a clothing company called Gauzy in the late 90s, early 2000s, and we were part of the first magazine, the print issue.
Oh wow!
So I've seen it from literally from like the interns,
right,
to the staff, to like where they go, to now like senior executives, to...
I mean, you had in that early days, you had what, Coltrane Curtis?
Yeah.
As editor?
Yeah.
I mean, it's when you look in those early times, a lot of the folks who were moving and working hard in a lot of things.
Anoma.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like incredible. And actually, they had hired, I think the editor, the first one, the fashion editor, was coming from either Cargo or Details for just the first one, and it's just incredible to see where they've gone now. And
oh yeah.
So but I didn't know that you were the first one.
First one in that group. Yep.
Wow. Yeah, and then how did that escalate, and like how did it?
So what was great about that is that I got time with people who were in New York with the business, because you have to remember, I was in Austin, Texas, like not exactly the publishing hub of America. Yeah. So and. In a way, that was an advantage to me and a disadvantage. The disadvantage was I didn't get to run in the circles that, say, everyone else did. So building those relationships was really tough for me. But what it forced me to do was I had to say, look, if I can't be there, I got to be better than. I got to be twice as good by not being there.
Interesting.
I've got to build better content that gets me noticed, or I have to do things differently because I don't have the advantage of just going there. One thing that it taught me was I did not have access to information from brands because I didn't even know anybody at brands.
Wow.
It wasn't until I think there was a trade show it was the Capsule Show in 2009 or 2008 that a Nike sportswear shoe was leaked, and we had run the pictures, a couple other sites, and one other blogger had told me, hey, this person from Nike called me to take down the image, you should probably do the same. I was like, oh, cool, I'll be sure to do that. Because I wanted her to call me.
Yeah.
Because I knew that was my only way I'd get in touch with somebody. I never had an email or contact with anybody at Nike. I even called like the corporate offices a couple of times, couldn't get anywhere. And
so you're like, let me make sure they call me.
Make sure they call me.
Got it.
That's how I got Demetria White's contact information. She called me. And I was actually driving home from Kicks, Ray Odom's store, when she called me. I was just outside of Columbus, Texas, right when she called me. I have photographic memory, so like a lot of this stuff it's really easy for me to remember because I can sometimes like picture where I am, what I'm doing. Like Ryan Core, good friend of mine, is sitting in the passenger seat as I'm driving.
I hear country music in the background. It's
kind
of like
come on,
McConaughey, kind of like commercial.
I just made a playlist for my dad on Spotify called CMT on Van Ness, which
CMT.
is Van Ness is the studio I lived on, and I was like, these are the songs that we listened to growing up.
Wow.
Yeah, country music. I mean, that's like one of the small things I don't hear out here that I miss so much. I didn't think I'd ever noticed not hearing country music until I moved to California, or to Southern California, I should say. But yeah, no, I mean, so I got Demetria White's information. We talked and, we exchanged a couple emails. But at that time, like, it was still a very face-to-face business. Twitter was being used a little bit, but not seriously. You still connected by email and by phone.
Wow.
And or face-to-face.
Yeah.
And emails didn't always get answered. Phone calls went sometimes unanswered, or then the voicemail got too big, whatever.
Yeah.
But there was almost like this thing of like, I knew that the people in New York, Joe had told me this one time, is that you have to understand people in the PR departments at these brands are always going to events with these people where they see these people.
Yeah.
He's like, they have an unfair advantage because they know that if they don't help this guy out when he calls, they might see him the next day at night. Yeah, you're going to see him that night.
Totally, yeah.
But I didn't have that luxury. They didn't know that they'd ever see me. So it made me work harder.
Wow.
And it made me politic with and work with boutiques, because that was my only way to getting information. So I had to befriend and become super tight with the people in the retail world, because I couldn't get it from the marketing and communications, from the corporate side. So I went and became friends with all the retailers I possibly could. And that's how I then got brought into magic as a quote buyer. That was for me to then politic in. The way all my earliest contacts at brands were not PR. They were retail, they were wholesale salespeople. People who were sales reps for the brands in the different categories. Or maybe the retail sales marketing people, but not the marketing people from the brand side. So it's like I had to hustle my way to, kind of build the name up that way.
So how did you think about, so Complex, which is such a huge platform, reaches out to you.
It wasn't at that time.
Yeah, because it was actually, digital was just starting, it was an infancy
Didn't even
stage.
have 1,000 visitors a day. It was a baby. No, but it had credibility because it was Complex. It was a printed magazine. It had an office on 23rd. Like, it was clearly a credible group.
Exactly.
Whereas in the digital world, you might have the most insane traffic, but nobody could ever really understand what that traffic actually meant, or what that audience size really meant.
And did you, back then, when you got onto the Complex network, did you know, or did you have a feeling that it was going to be as big as like what Nice Kicks is now? And did you at that age already start to create or reverse engineer, like as an architect for your own business, and for were you already plotting to say, like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then this is going to get me bigger, and then I'm going to grow, like what you are now? There
were a lot of things that I wanted to do with Nice Kicks as soon as I started growing the audience size, growing the connections with different people in the business,
or like,
and then growing
where did you
the revenue.
See the massive spike? Like, what year was that where you just were like, wow, this is
real? There were
real.
a couple big moments for us. Yeah, I would say social was a huge thing for us. I would say, and anybody in sneaker media would be lying if they didn't say that the world changed the second that the Yeezys, the Nike Yeezys, hit the web.
Wow.
And when he performed at the Grammys, mind you, this is 2 months to the day after the passing of his mother.
Oh my God.
And he dedicates his performance to his mother, to his late mother, plays Hey Mama.
Yeah.
He's on stage, center stage. Remember, this is a different time, the Grammys. This is the biggest event in music and culture. He's performing there, dedicating it to his mother, and a man who was known as anything but humble showed sincere humility. And to me, I remember in that, like, the moment I look back even more, I'm like, this was the next generation's Michael Jordan moment. To me, there are so many parallels between Kanye West on stage at the Grammys, showing humility when this is a guy who's anything but.
Yeah.
And in that moment, just on top of it all, after winning all those awards, I was like, this has so many parallels to the Father's Day game when Michael Jordan wins his first championship after coming back from retirement after his father passed away. The parallels between those two events is so incredible. And and it was really at that moment things changed. Not long after that, it was actually, he did an interview with, I want to say it was ID Magazine, and which was a New York Times
Which
thing.
colorway was he wearing that one?
He was wearing an all black with a
With the pink?
with a no glow in the dark bottom.
With the glow in the dark
So
bottom,
it's
right?
one that never released.
Yeah.
And people asked him about his shoes or something like that. And at that time, we called them. I looked back at our website and I looked at how we titled the articles and the URL
Yeah.
structure. We called them Kanye West shoes. And then we were like, the shoes that Kanye West wore at the Grammys. There was no name. There was no
Yeah.
Nike Air Yeezy.
Yeah.
Wasn't until that article, that interview that he did with ID Magazine, which was a part of the New York Times, the fashion side. He did it in France for Fashion Week. And he said, oh yeah, those are the Nike Yeezys, but I can't talk about those yet. Or those aren't coming out yet.
Yeah.
And Hypebeast reposted the actual link to it.
Yeah.
And they didn't pick up on that. The name was mentioned. Can't talk about those yet, or those are coming out. And I was like, oh my gosh, man. Like, how did this, and it actually fell through the cracks of several other websites too, who had reposted the interview. They didn't catch that he named the shoe, and then he said they were coming out.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
for us, like, that was, boom, we're going. Like, this is it. We've got the shoe, and like we've got the name. And so there, on that point, you know, it was Nike Air Yeezys, and we just, Twitter just started. We started building a following on Twitter and everything. So then, you know, we get the retweets like crazy. And this was not when you hit a retweet button. This was when you type in RT and then type out at Niceys, then copy, then paste, like old school retweet.
Yeah.
And it just spread like wildfire. That was a big moment. We had a couple other like little viral moments, but that one was a big one because it lasted for so long, and there was constant updates about whatever Yeezys he wore then on the Glow in the Dark tour.
So like for you, in terms of like numbers wise, what was a big hit back then? Like how many views were you guys getting a month back then?
I mean, that was back in the days when, oh gosh, I don't even think in audience size, we were probably at like 3 or 4 million at that time. Mind you, it was very different back then compared to today. People are like, oh, your web traffic has gone down so much. I'm like, no. Do you use the website?
Yeah.
Do you go type in Safari and then type in? No, you get your information through other means or through other mediums. But then it was very web driven. Mobile had just came out.
So at that time, you're saying 3 to 4 million people were going on the site?
On that month. I'd have to take a look back at that day. I think that day cracked 200,000 people.
Wow.
But we had some other big ones. The other one was the Louis Vuitton price list. We got an actual employee at a Louis Vuitton store somehow got a hold of the prices. It had the picture of all the shoes and it had the individual prices.
Wow.
And I was about to put it up, and Joe LaPua was the one. He's like, Matt. He's like, I know you don't always tag photos, but he's like, you need to tag this photo.
You need to tag
this one's going to go around. He's
this
like,
is
this
viral.
will ensure people like link back to you. And so I thank him for that. Yeah, I definitely thank him for that.
Yeah, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe, on that one too.
I love the fact that like it was the Don C or the Ivan Jasper and like, you know, there was all his homies and friends.
All his homies. And it's like, dude, these homies are still killing it today too.
Yeah, actually, we used to give Ivan, I was talking to Ivan like a few weeks ago, we used to give him DC shoes.
Yep.
Back then. Like that's how me and him met, you know, more him on the skate side.
Yep.
And I remember being in the video with Kerry Hilson and Neo
when
he launched.
Huge one.
And it was actually, so what he wanted was, he didn't want extras, he wanted real people. So I don't know if you go to that video, it's like, it's me, Nick Diamond, Javier, Jerry, Sean Merriman, Leo from Evident, you know, it's just literally Mega from Black Scale. It's all the crews are in that video. And that was to launch the shoe. Right. But nobody else would see the shoe. That was the first time they saw one of the like the colorways.
Yes, the black and pink ones. Yep. That Kerry Hilson video. I mean, that was the biggest song of that summer too. Yeah. Like it was such a huge song in terms of like a pop radio hit. Obviously when, Run This Town at the end of the summer really started to take off in 2009. But
so then you definitely, the price list hits.
That's another big one.
And then I would say like now,
So I would say there's one other thing in 2009 that made it a really big defining year, was that the Space Jams were coming back. The Air Jordan 11 Space Jams is the first time the Air Jordan 11 released on its own since 2001. So the mid. So that was a big moment. The other thing that was big is I applied my knowledge from search engine optimization as a kid, because remember how I said I optimized for Lorenzer rims?
Yeah.
Well, that's not what a bunch of guys in Germany would call them. They'd call them Lorenzer wheels. So I knew from that experience that you don't always go by what the product category guy is going to call the shoe. You go by what the streets call the shoe.
Got it. Got smart.
So for me, I was like, I'm building all these pages, building all the content.
Like somebody would probably corporate-wise would be like sneakers, but they're kicks, and you're gonna search for kicks or luxury kicks.
So for me, what I did with that was
That's smart.
That song from what was it? More Than a Game with it has Lil Wayne on the verses. Hello, I'm this. Let's see, what is it? Oh, what is it? I can't believe I forgot the lyrics.
What is he talking about?
As like Marvin the Martian, Spaceman Jordans. I can't believe I forgot the line.
Yeah, I'll come to you.
Yeah. Anyways, so Lil Wayne drops the line, Space Jam Jordans. Bun B also says Space Jam Jordans in a mixtape before that too. And I noticed, I'm like, guys, this song Forever is played every hour on hip hop radio and pop radio.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's gonna go
Space
crazy.
Jam Jordans is what kids are gonna know these shoes as.
Yeah.
And I did a great case study at the end of it for my team. I was like, look at the number of people who type in Jordan 11 Space Jam and how many people type in Space Jam Jordans. When everybody's calling it Space Jam Jordans, I don't care what the catalog says.
Yeah.
If the streets are calling it something, you make sure you have your content and your everything that you're doing for what people are saying. It's all about, telling.
It's kind of like Red Octobers or whatever the streets are going to call it. Just do that.
And that's when I think things got really whack with nicknames, when brands started making up nicknames. The streets always made the nicknames.
Yeah.
The consumers always made the nicknames.
Yeah.
This has been a consumer-driven market, and it was in the sneaker world, like in the limited world, it was done by us, the consumers. It was not done by, Herzog or Beaverton or Boston. It was by the streets.
Yeah. My wife always laughs because I'll tell her like, "Oh, those are a dope pair of beef and broccolis."
Right.
Like,
yeah.
What the fuck? What are you talking about? Beef and broccoli?
Yep.
I'm like, no, those are the Tims. Those are, those are the sesame chickens. Those are the mac and cheeses. And
mac and cheese.
She's like, what? She's like, you're crazy. I'm
Babito, I remember Babito's Air Force One pack where he had the mac and cheese and the beef and broccoli Air Force One highs. I thought those were so dope. That was actually that was my first interview with anybody in sneakers, was Babito.
Oh my God.
I'm like,
that is like,
when I interviewed him, I'm like,
done.
you know what? I've been doing this for a couple of months. It's time to retire. Like Bob was, he's amazing.
Yeah.
An amazing guy.
So we got to get back into Babito.
Yeah.
We got to do something, a segment on the show we call What's Your Rotation right now?
Okay.
Current. We're going to take a quick bathroom break and we'll be right back. Woo. All right, we're back. Back after the break. Yeah. Just, so I know that now, of course, I know that you opened up stores. Can you take me through that? Like, how did that happen with the Nice Kick stores and what time frame is that?
So, this is perfect timing. Like, just talking about 09, it pivoted right towards what we did. And, in the end of 2009 was when our first collaboration dropped, which was even before we had a store.
Which was what?
The Asics Gelite 3, which
we
did with Ronnie. So I became really good friends with Ronnie starting in 06. This was before he...
I do something weird every time. Just if you ever see me and Ronnie, we're just going to scream out, Queens! for no reason.
Of course.
Just, Yo. Like, it's just the randomest thing, but we just...
Yep.
We still do it. We just scream Queens. But so, it's funny, yeah.
So I met
That's
Ronnie,
right.
I met Ronnie at the Broadway store of David Z, and he showed me his... what would be the future, his first 3 Asics collaborations.
Sick.
And then he gifted me a pair of Tims that he did that were made in Dominican
Republic.
Republic.
So he was still at David Z?
Oh yeah, this is 06.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is way before Kith. He actually had Kith clothing then.
Okay.
He had already started the name and the label, and I saw a couple of his boys wearing it. And he gave me a couple shirts as well. But so that name had already been there, and it was KithNYC.com, which he rolled with until he got the just Kith.com. But so I met him then, and that was back. And so we started.
06,
he reached
07, right?
06, and then just like we talked all the time, 07, 08, and then in 08 he had come to me with, hey, I want to do a trio of collaborations with people outside of just myself through David Z. Like, I want to work with others. And I had wanted to do a collaboration since I even started. I actually pitched a collaboration that got turned down by Greedy Genius in
Genius!
Yep. I pitched, which I think would have been the best Phantom by them for sure.
Wow.
But they passed on
it's
it,
funny,
whatever.
I sold Greedy Genius in my store.
Oh, yes.
I know Hugh and...
Hugh and Mikhail. And
Yep.
I knew Brandon from way back.
Got it.
So it got turned down, but I still wanted to create. I just wanted to create my own shoes. And Ronnie asked me if I'd like to create a shoe. I'm like, yes. Like, now, when? Like, when's the next flight? Can I get up there?
Yeah.
And, it was, of course, on the Gel Light 3, and I had thought of some ideas.
So he's still at David Z.
Oh, yeah, this is still at David Z. This is 08. Yeah.
So, Matt, this is a very different Ronnie than what he is now, like, just incredible superpower.
Right.
This is just at David Z.
Yeah, this is David Z. Yeah.
And amazing.
Yeah.
But what I love about it is that you were still on it. It was still, because, to the viewers that they're here, like, oh yeah, I wanted to do a shoe with Ronnie. Of course, the whole world wants to do a shoe with Ronnie. But what I love about it is that you wanted to do it with him, a shoe with him, even at the David Z level before Kith and this global world expansion that he has now. So it just shows you like the years that you've been doing this, like
for a long time.
And
but for me, it wasn't. For me, like I even look back at it, collaborations were more about the people and the product than the name of the brand or where they were sold. I always felt like, too much was put on, I don't know, the cool crowd. I mean, maybe because I was from Texas and clearly not part of that crowd, so I thought like, fuck the cool crowd, whatever. But no, I always felt like it was about the people and the projects and the product more so than like where they were sold or how, limited or whatever. But we created a shoe. It was a Gel Light 3. Mostly red, way before Kanye did like all red everything and everything. So it's like that felt dope. And then that shoe sold out. It was the first shoe that he had that sold out very quickly. I mean, it was like maybe 15 minutes. It sold out on David Z.
Wow.
And then we immediately started working on a second shoe, like right after that. But so this was so it dropped in October 3rd of 2009. And then I had already just started working on the store. I think I had signed the lease like in maybe July or August to then it would open in 2010. So we dropped our first shoe before we even opened the retail store and opened the retail store. And
how many pairs?
Oh, the first drop was, I think it was 300 pairs.
Okay.
But I gave away.
Were you nervous about that? Was that a lot for you like back then? To think about?
I mean, I didn't pay for them. Like it was David Z had wrote the order. I bought all the shoes I could at wholesale. Like I didn't make anything. I actually lost money on it. Like lost a shit ton of money because I bought 50 pairs. So there were only 250 pairs ever sold maybe. Because there were 300 ordered. I bought 50 of them.
And you gave them away to friends.
And I gave them away to everybody. Like I have one pair left that was chewed up by a dog. Like I don't have a dead stock pair of those shoes.
And what's crazy is that on Ronnie's story, I don't know if you just saw it on Blueprint, on Complex, they interviewed Ronnie and he talks about that, doing those Asics shoes in the beginning and him being so scared. Because, because David...
Oh, no, he was scared on the first couple.
David didn't know about them. So it was literally like, I'm bringing all these shoes. David didn't know until they hit the store. And literally it could have been his life or his job on the line. Like maybe wouldn't even be what he's doing now based on that. But thank God it was a huge success. Newspapers wrote about it. That's amazing. I didn't know that you're part of that story from back then.
Yeah, I mean, we had posted.
This is like so much fun for me right now.
So I mean, so we dropped our first shoe before we had our store that opened in 2010, and that was just the most amazing thing. There were 700 people who lined up in front of the store for the grand opening. And
hold on. So you had the 50 pair for the store?
No. We had sold those before we'd even opened the store.
Okay.
So the 50 pair were given to friends.
So where is these 700 people lining up for what?
For the opening of the Nice Kick store. We didn't have any shoe to sell. We just opened a store.
In
Austin.
Wow.
Which is a third tier market by all brands' accounts.
Definitely, yeah.
And we had papered the windows. Like I was very meticulous about, like we unveiled the sign. Like I had filmed it with the guys like going construction crew, put it over the Bumblebee track. And you know, then it lit up, and that was the end of the video, and you saw that we were announcing that we were opening a store. And I covered the windows with paper so no one could see in. I always wanted to keep this like thing like nobody knows what's going on inside. And I literally remember that morning, all the staff, like all the blog workers are out there with me. Like all the bloggers are running the store with me on that first day, and we pulled the paper for the first time down for everybody to see. And that was the unveiling of the store. There were 700 people lined up, which was just, we did not expect that at all.
Wow.
Not in the least, but people came from Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Los Angeles.
What were you selling?
Shoes. We had our
Like
Nice Kicks merch that sold out that day.
Which accounts did you open up with?
We had every brand except for that we had wanted, except for what was it, Vans, which was ironic because Kevin Bailey, the then CEO, sent me a letter, like a handwritten letter, and like the history of Vans book, like congratulating me on opening a store. And like, you know, he's like, I've been watching your website for years. This is such an amazing accomplishment. Congratulations. I still have this letter to this day.
Wow.
But we didn't have a Vans account. I couldn't even get a Vans account. I kept trying to call, and they're like, oh no, you're not a skate shop. Can't give you Vans. And I'm like, dude, please.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that, and I didn't have Jordan. I had Nike, which it was unheard of at that time for a store to open on opening day with Nike store and be a Nike account.
Yeah. As a retailer for 13 years, that is
unheard of.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we had that.
So now, what do you? I mean, me and just putting two together, the popularity of the website.
I didn't understand
I didn't understand
how.
And then 700 people know about it.
Right.
Is that how it happened? Because that's what I would think. It was like because you had a website.
It was because of the website. I just never
how
understood.
Else would 700 people find out?
I didn't understand for the longest time how
and this
many
is
people
after
read
you've
the site.
done the limited edition Asics.
Yeah.
Got it. So people
but still,
already
this
know.
is all digital. I didn't see people like, you know, I'd gone to a couple like events like H&L Sneaker Summit and things like that, but I didn't really, I don't know, it's like the numbers and the body count, I didn't understand. I didn't put the 2 and 2 together that like when you have, you know, what is it, 8 or 9 million followers on social, that's actually like the population of New England. I didn't put the 2 and 2 together.
Wow.
And definitely that day, I did not expect that at all.
Wow.
And that was such a great day.
That's so powerful. Because you know, in this age, everything's numbers, right?
It's all numbers.
It's like, oh yeah, I had this many likes. These people has 1 million. Everything's 1 billion. But when you put 700, right? Because no one's bragging about I got 700 views or I have 700 followers. But if you put 700 people anywhere, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
And I think we forget like when you reach millions of people. Imagine putting millions of people somewhere.
I mean, it's the thing that I still, and I think it's different because there are lots of outlets. And I'm not talking in sneakers, I'm just talking about generally. There are lots of outlets that have gigantic numbers or quote gigantic followings, but they have no engagement or attention with that audience.
Got it.
They don't have a relationship with them. They don't have years of trust. They don't have, I'm gonna open a store and then that gets people to drive from fucking Los Angeles to Austin to be there. That was a moment where I was like, holy shit, this is much bigger than I thought it was. This is more than sneakers. These people came here for this moment of this grand opening of the store.
Yeah.
You know, my number one sellers were not the shoes I had from my vault that I put up there. Number one sellers were everything Nice Kicks. I bought what I thought was 6 months worth of t-shirts and they were all gone that day.
In one day.
And what I really realized that at that time, like it was something else.
What was it?
So
what was it? What did you realize? Is it the experiential? Was it the fact that they saw something online digital but then could show up to a location?
I think that
and then experience what they've been experiencing
what happened
online?
was my goal for the store happened much faster than I thought it would. There's an interview of me when I look a lot younger and a lot thinner with Hype Beast. I'm working on that. I've gone vegan. I'm down 40 pounds. Like I'm on the right track. You're gonna see me soon, bro.
Love it.
But the thing was, I said that this store is not to sell shoes. This store is not as a monetization model. This store is to be a offline, tangible extension of the digital brand. This store was created to be a place where you would walk in and you could experience something that you wouldn't get elsewhere. And one of the things I'd said in there too was, I want people to leave this store with something, whether or not they have a bag in their hand. Whether it be that they were inspired by something that was displayed in a new way. They had a conversation about, something in history or a moment that touched them. I wanted everybody who walked into that space to leave feeling better than they did when they walked in. And that had nothing to do with if they bought anything.
It's amazing that you think like that, Matt. And I believe that, sometimes that's where some of the most successful people, you'll hear these kind of stories. They wanted to give. You were giving more value than a value proposition. You're not worrying about what you're going to take from somebody. You wanted to give. And I believe that it shows you why you're successful, because when you're talking and when you get passionate about what you're talking about, like you are right now, you're passionate about giving, and that's when people really react, because they could feel that.
Yeah,
you weren't. The sale wasn't the ultimate goal.
No,
it was. I want you to, whether you buy or not, I want you to leave with something.
Yeah.
So that's and sometimes. I don't know if you even picked that up.
I didn't realize it until I lost that.
Okay, got it.
I lost that at one point. I got into a position where I didn't necessarily see that. I heard people are always talking in your ear.
Yeah.
You can either choose to listen to it or you can choose to not to.
Got it.
And unfortunately, there was a time that I chose to listen to shit that wasn't real, and I did listen to those things that. You're doing something, you need to be getting more for it. And so I'm not a guy who ever regrets things. Yeah. But if I don't even want to change it, because had it not been for the mistakes I made, I wouldn't realize why I did certain things to begin with.
Yeah.
I think more it's now just going back to what I always was to be. But I think
that's where you're at now.
And that's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Now it's.
So what is Nice Kicks now? Like, what in terms of what? Paint the picture, for the listener, for the audience.
Yeah. So Nice Kicks is and always will be about the people, and that's that does not just mean the people with the brands. It does not just mean the people at the shoe stores. That means the consumers. I think it was in 2012. I wrote an article for Complex, and it was. I think, you know what it was? It was Jeff Staple had done something like the top 50 people in sneakers, the most influential people in sneakers. Yeah. And it caused a ton of controversy.
Yeah, of course.
Because, of course, people were left off.
Whenever there's a list.
Two people were left off of it. Myself was one of them. The other one was Gary Barnett, rest in peace. And
rest in peace.
there were a lot of people who were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this! He got this wrong, he got that wrong." First of all, I love Jeff. I think definitely no intent on his part of anything.
Yeah.
But I wrote, and I think it was maybe a couple weeks later or a month later, and I wrote it, and I put number one. I think I put Michael Jordan or somebody at Nike at number two, and people were like, who could be number one? I said, it's you who's reading this. It's the consumers. You are who drive everybody else on this list to do what they do. You are the ones who influence how they are operating. And it's not, and it was now more than ever, it's not just by what you choose to buy. But this is, 2012. Social has happened.
Yeah.
Social is here to stay. Your voice, your opinions they don't just matter, they're heard, they're amplified. And I always have felt that what Nice Kicks is about and who I work for are the people who read the site and engage with the brand.
Wow.
That's who I answer to, not to anyone else. And where I made mistakes was answering to advertisers or answering to ideas that would be more beneficial financially. When you get right down to it, Nice Kicks was about doing things for the people who read the site. And that's what Nice Kicks is for.
Wow. And it shows, Matt. That's your success, that's your passion, that's what you're giving back. And I read an article, about you that people have approached you trying to sell stuff on the site, trying to sell sneakers, and you're like, no, I'm here to write news. Like, and I love your focus. Like, you've been very focused about what you are and what you're going to do and where you're going with the site.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've read something like you're still getting like 2.8 to 3 million views a month.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
unique readers.
That's incredible. I mean, the power in that, in terms of the sheer numbers, but then also
I mean, that to me is great. Those numbers are like cool, they're great, but
yeah.
I still think the greatest part is when you meet somebody for the first time who reads the site. Like, meeting people in real life who follow you or who know about something, or like something I do, and like Nick DePaula, he makes fun of me for it all the time when we travel together. I'll be in the airport somewhere, I'm like, nice kicks, bro. And I always like kind of love that second of hesitation where I know somebody's like, oh shit, I think I follow Nice Kicks on Instagram. Not from recognizing me, but the fact that I said Nice Kicks, and it's somewhere in their mind.
Yeah.
And I always look for that hesitation. I was like, oh, by the way, you know Nice Kicks? Like, you check, like, you follow sneakers online?
Yeah.
And it's fun to just kind of like in a friendly way engage with people and hear the stories of why they got into it, or how did they discover Nice Kicks? What do they like? What can we do better? What stories have we done or that they'd like to see more of? And I think that, I don't know, it's definitely not something that'll scale. It's not something that is going to be the best monetization, but I don't answer to VCs. I don't answer to shareholders. I don't answer to investors. I answer to the readers and the fans of the site. That's who matter. And for me, like, that's what drives. That's what makes all of everything worth it.
That's like, that purity. I was listening to a podcast, which is one of the ones I love. It's called How I Built This.
That makes two of us sitting here.
Yeah, and they were interviewing the founder of Rolling Stone, and he was like, what does he do? And they were like, well, do you want to disclose what you do? Do you want to disclose your numbers? He's like, no. He goes, no, I'm not. He goes, we're going to do what we want to do. And we've always done it. We're just going to do what we want to do.
Yep.
And what we think is cool and what we think our readers want.
Yep.
And I got a lot of that sense from you as well. And that it's powerful. Your position, the fact that you don't answer to the VCs, or that you're able to do that for your consumers, for the real people there, that I believe that there's a sacrifice from a business standpoint, like you said, from a monetization standpoint, that maybe you'll do. And I also believe that right now, because you have the power, meaning the people have the power to go get content where they want to get it from, you actually will benefit in that in the long run, because I believe in the people.
People are always going to be here. Marketing budgets aren't. People will always be here. Your trust is what you build for, and I think that leveraging that trust for cheap monetization is not the route. And I think that, invest in yourself, invest in your people, invest in your company, and invest in the people you work for. Give them something they weren't expecting. Make them want to come back. Make them not just happy with their experience, but they want to tell others about it. Those are all things that are very important, and something I also learned in business. We've had the times where we had a huge office in downtown Austin in a historic building, and I think at one time had almost 23 employees between retail, e-commerce, and editorial. And right now it's mainly 4 guys and myself. And what I learned from this is that you can get, quote, bigger. You can get larger numbers. You can do more revenue. But a lot of times you're having to do a lot of things just to keep up with your overhead. And when you're doing that, very often you're having to make decisions that are not best for the brand, but out of necessity to the budget. And one thing I encourage any entrepreneur is, and this I think goes in life too, is stay as small and stay as lean as long as you can, because it allows you to build into your brand and not do the jobs you don't necessarily want to do. Allows you to stay on track much more.
Wow, that's amazing.
So
so I think that thank you so much. I know
appreciate it.
Those are big points that I know that a lot of people are going to benefit from. I'm at a similar point in my life right now in terms of where I'm at, you know, in leaving legacy and doing what I want to do. I know for me, I could be doing a lot of other things, but I just really want to focus on sneakers. That's why we started Kicking It with Sneaker Steve and telling the story of this young kid from Queens that grew up and now has traveled the whole world and has seen all these different experiences because of my love for sneakers and passion. And, you know, I think it's beautiful. I mean, I know that, like, I talked about with you a little bit before that I'm giving you news for the first time about where I'm going in my life. And before we get to that, I want to talk about, so what's your current rotation? That's something we do at Kickin' It.
Current rotation, yes.
On Sneaker Steve is, what's your top three? What's your rotation
My
right now?
top three right now is probably, unfortunately, so like in line with, no, I say it's probably going to look so much like the Instagram feed. Because it's a pair of Air Jordan 1s, which I love, like the sale ones, even though Air people Jordan are sleeping on them right now.
All right.
These ones right here.
Okay, whoa, dude. Hey, there we go.
So these ones, I got them opening, like the day they dropped. You know what, people are like, oh, they're going to go on sale. I don't give a fuck. I had wanted these so badly because I knew from my friends who were in Jordan that that this leather is the exact same source as the sail panel on the shattered backboards, which is absolute butter. I've had enough work in sneakers to know that not always do companies get to choose which materials they use. It has a lot to do with what is on rolls and what is made by Wolverines and all the other, you know.
Sure.
Anyways, so I love these. Lots of Air Jordan 1s.
And what's their FOB that their boss is telling them?
And what their FOB is, exactly.
Woo,
and,
we got the magic.
Yeah, and then another pair that
And I got to switch you out into some Androdomes today.
Yeah, dude, I think that these are actually going to be, I think that these might have to be in the list now. Like, these are freaking amazingly comfortable.
3M reflective, proportion mids.
I mean, you know what I love is a shoe that, I love 3M, because you know what 3M is like? 3M is like that guy who, or, you know, I think it's, 3M is that dude that you wrote off as something, you get close and you're like, oh shit. I assumed something from afar, I got closer. And I think that's what these shoes are to me. Because somebody might say all black shoe, like if I'm like a quarter mile away, you just say like all black shoe. The closer you get, and then you see the details, and then you see, like, you know, the perforations, like, yeah, these I think these are gonna be in the three. And then the other one would probably be, oh, I'm gonna flip it. See, I had to knock one out. One of them was Adidas Boost.
What color?
So I actually love the DPR Pure Boost and the Ultra Boost a lot. I prefer the Pure Boost because I think the Ultra Boost is a little too thick in the heel. Okay. And I'm not a big fan of the sock tongue. I know everybody loves that. I don't like it as much. Okay. I like the Pure Boost DPR. And then the other one is the Vans Old School.
Sick. What color?
Oh man. So I've got
in the rotation, top three.
In the rotation, the black white checkerboard right now.
Perfect.
To me, and that's about authenticity. That, you know what that shoe represents to me? That side stripe is the branding of the brand. It's a $60 shoe. Yeah. The checkerboard is theirs. I mean, USTPO agrees with that too. Yeah. And it's like, you know, like that is theirs. That's theirs, yeah. Word to all the, you know, high-end brands that have, you know, I see range that all the time.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. When I saw Louis Vuitton dropping a shoe called the Skate High. Dude. Or the SK8.
The SK, yeah.
I was just like, oh my God. Like, I already knew that, you know, I was a big part of, you know, bringing skateboarding to the masses. You know, we talked about a little bit what the projects that we were doing at DC Shoes, you know, like the
There
Caviar
were consecutive seasons by Louis and Gucci that were takeoffs of skate highs and slip-ons. Yeah, I mean, every season you had them. They were staples.
Yeah, that's something that I saw early coming in from just the silhouettes coming off of skate and rock inspired. Right. Black, skinny rocker. I just saw them hitting the runways, and I knew, and that's something that I forecasted.
And we were talking earlier about some Caviar, and I immediately picked up. Wait, sir, I knew you probably had something to do with that. Yeah. So and then so tell me about that project, because it was not. Was it the Caviars that came first, and then the white and blue, or which one came first?
No, so what that was me and John Buscemi were at DC Shoes at the same time working, and we were at the lifestyle division. Right. I was the global director of the company, and John had a great relationship with Russ. Mm-hmm. So he had this concept. Russ has always had the concept of the Coney Island, and what we did for the first time, and Russ had a great relationship with Damon Way, one of the founders of DC, and which I loved at that time, where we were working and we did tooling left and right. So the outsole from the left were the ships pirate ships coming from Russia, and then the other side of the foot. So this is unheard of.
No,
that you have
they had
a left and
mismatching.
right tooling per pair.
Yeah.
So the amount of investment for tooling is already in the thousands. You're looking at 20, 30,000. Imagine doubling that. It's unheard of for the amount of pairs. So we did black, real Stingray shoes with real 24 karat gold that we launched across the street from Supreme at Pavda. And that was incredible. We did sublimated for the first time. We did full inside sublimated hats with New Era.
Yep.
And because I was responsible for bringing New Era with the action sports industry.
Right.
That's where you see all the hats that are happening now. And that was incredible. The spotted pig shoe that we talked about with Mario Batali.
I have them somewhere. I have those.
We did shoes for Beyonce. We did shoes for Jay. We did shoes for Bono.
Yep.
Because they were all secretly part of the restaurant.
Yep.
And actually, Yuming was the first one to cover that shoe.
Yes, I pulled it off his site. I link back though.
Okay.
I link back. Shout out to all the bloggers who don't know how to link back.
Yeah. So we did that. Mighty Healthy, Ray.
Yes, those. Which I'm a huge fan of Ostrich, so I definitely respected those.
And that was a really special time. Lamar and Dolly, which is we gave them the first shot to do their shoes, and it was a very, very special time.
I mean that time also. So that was the era where I met Homie Diaz.
Yep.
Who I was just with a couple days ago over at K-Swiss.
So Homie's from Queens. I hired Homie. So I took Homie from Apple.
Yep.
We did the first Apple Soho shoe.
Yep.
So we did it with Incase.
Yes.
That then helped Incase get into Apple.
Apple, right.
Incase, please, can I get a check? Or give me some bags, give me something. Like
they just
Apple
sold.
retail, I know.
Yep.
And so Damon met Incase, and
Yep.
then I connected them with Apple. We did the Apple Velcro ballistic nylon shoe for all of the employees for the opening of the New York City Soho store downtown, which was just to see 200 to 300 DC shoes in the Apple Soho store that just opened up was ridiculous, because we had opened up a store around the block. And so I immediately took Homie out of Apple. I recruited him, I hired him, and now Homie is where he is now. Like, just I'm super proud of him.
That's amazing. And a lot of people don't give DC credit for this, which is
that was all Damon. Damon and Ken were like what they've done. Their investment. I mean, the first Cause shoe, like
that's where I was going.
Yeah.
The first Cause shoe was with DC.
Yeah.
He had been active as an artist, but put on in a big way to I guess that world in action sports.
That's all Damon and Ken. Like they I was blessed to have that opportunity.
Right.
Just to be around that at that time.
Yep.
To go to a downtown event with Damon and Cause, and it was very, very special. And for me, it was an honor.
Yep.
To work with them at that time. But
yep.
To see your reaction to them even now is incredible.
Oh man.
I actually sent Ronnie a picture inside of Kith with me and Mario Batali talking about the spotted pig shoe.
That's amazing.
And Ronnie bugged out. Ronnie was like, wow.
So the Caviar Cartel was actually, I'd seen them online. The first time I ever saw them was from Ronnie's stash in his apartment in Great Neck.
No way.
Yes.
With the blue box or like?
Yes. The black, the black shoes. This was, that was like, didn't you only do 500 pairs on that?
Yeah, it was.
Which you made custom, the unheard of outsoles, and then you only made 500 pairs.
Yeah.
Like how
the black one was 100 pair only in the world.
Well, then that's the one I saw.
He had the real Stingray.
Yeah, the
that
real
was with
Stingray.
the real Stingray backs. Which, if you ever do Stingrays, you need actually 2 Stingrays to be able to do the back.
Yes, you do.
I mean, that shoe is just incredible. Even to this day, what we were doing with Russ is just amazing.
Yeah.
And that's something where I'm just fortunate to be a part of that sneaker history. I remember the first time advertising at Complex at that level, bringing DC shoes, action sports brands to advertise and sponsor on Complex was unheard of. We were doing 2-page ads full for skateboarding companies in Complex. So we're part of a very, very special time in sneaker culture and the crossing over between skate and urban.
I mean, that was
East Coast, West Coast.
Yep.
That was just fashion mixing.
That was that era where I call it the Pharrell era.
Yeah.
Because even if Pharrell wasn't the #1 artist, Pharrell was almost like the picture of what culture was.
Yeah.
Which was, I remember my brother was telling me about going to his first NERD show, and he said, like, you know, he's like, you walk into the show, and he went to one in Seattle. He said, you saw everybody, like from every different walk of life, different cliques. Like this is at the time with the MTV generation where it's like, oh, here are the skaters, oh, here are the preps, here are the hip hop kids, here are the jocks. No, he's like, you go there, and he's like, it's everybody who's there. And, you know, the way he brought, I don't know, he just blended and mixed action sports and fashion and hip hop, and I mean, just everything just all kind of melted together with him.
Yeah, Pharrell's always been an inspiration. You know, he worked with Nori, really big from Queens, and
Yep.
like, the Neptunes has just been amazing.
Yep.
You know, and to have you and like hear these stories, like really, you know, the whole purpose of Kicking It with Sneaker Steve is like, I would have this conversation with you, right?
Right.
I would be blown away. I'm like, holy shit, oh my
I mean,
God.
F the cameras, they're not even there, dude.
Yeah,
Like-
they're not even here, right? It's like, oh my God, wow, I just met Matt. You know,
Right.
like, I've met you, you know the brand.
Dude,
but
what meeting and trade shows is not justice for meeting people
Yeah.
at all. It's like, yeah.
yeah. So, and then, but eventually this would have happened.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so when Ivan called and was like, you wanted to be a part of the show, I was like, oh my God, no brainer, like let's
Yep.
do it. But I got to really meet you and learn from you. And you know, we definitely gotta, you know, connect again. We gotta rap, you know.
I mean,
this is just like,
this is just a start, because you know what we have not
this is
done?
a show in itself, like just talking about like,
You know what we have not done yet? We've talked a lot about me. I haven't gotten to ask you hardly anything. And we have not gotten to the most important thing about this business, which is all the people in it.
Yeah.
So next time.
Yeah, and you know, about me, the most important thing, because you are the first blog, so I get to tell you the first sneaker blog ever.
I'm going to be blogging it from the car.
Yeah, so this is the biggest news of my life. I'm starting a new brand.
Amazing.
And
Can you say the name?
I cannot.
Oh my God. So I'm going to have to do like the Kanye West thing where I'm like, the Sneaker Steve brand is coming, and then like later you'll do an interview somewhere else and I'll pick it up, right?
Well, no, how about this?
You'll tell me the name when you're ready?
How about this? I'll give it to you first.
Okay, thank you.
All right?
I appreciate it.
I'll give it to you first.
I
'cause
appreciate it.
I'm announcing it with you first.
Appreciate it.
It's with the 5-4 group, which is one of the fastest growing groups in America.
It is.
And we just stay tuned.
Amazing.
We got something happening.
Amazing.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you, brother.